Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Gulf Shore City Council Work Session Meeting, July 7th. Appreciate you being here. I think that most of you understand, but this is the meeting. We will be open discussion on council, on anything related that will be talked about and voted on next Monday at our council meeting. So this is your opportunity to ask questions, no more. Give us your thoughts and input if you have any. So we'll do that, and we'll start off with the councilman discussion period. Mr. Sinek.
No, I have nothing today.
Thank you, sir. Toby.
Yes, sir. I've got a couple things. The first thing I have, appointing Spencer Cade to the Board of Zoning Adjustments as a supernumerary member. We received applications and Spencer was chosen to fill that position. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody with any questions? Anybody? Toby, you got something else?
I do. I have a walk-on, yes, sir. I'd like to appoint one more additional election officer to serve as a poll worker. She was inadvertently left off my original list, so I would like to appoint Ms. Janelle Armbruster. She'll be working at the Cultural Center location, precinct number 48. I have posted a list of all the people that have been appointed so far. They are at City Hall, the library, and the rec center, and Ms. Armbruster's name will be added to that list after the 14th when she's officially appointed. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Toby. Comments or questions? Joe Ethan, some lifeguards to discuss. Well, a lifeguard. You saw several of them walk in, so.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We have two Lifeguard of the Months. The first one we're going to do is Lifeguard of the Month from April. We're proud to recognize Jake Heintzelman as April's Lifeguard of the Month. Despite only having 2 seasons under his belt, Jake has quickly proven himself to be a reliable go-to team member. He consistently gives 100% in everything that he does. He actually came from Spring Hill. He just graduated college from Spring Hill, playing soccer there. And one of the main things that Jake did in April was have a 5-person rescue on the jet ski at the state park. So we want to recognize Jake as April's Lifeguard of the Month. All right, next we have Sarah Hatter for the Lifeguard of the Month for May. Sarah is an assistant softball coach for Orange Beach Makos, and just her leadership that she brings from doing that. Last year was a beach ranger, and this year decided to be a lifeguard, and she brings leadership just from that coaching aspect. That this was the first month that we actually let the lifeguards pick the Lifeguard of the Month. We normally supervisors do that, and they pick the end of the year. But we just wanted to see what the season was like. And they picked her just based on her leadership. So it's not always about the rescues, but it's also about how you do teamwork, and she brings that from her coaching aspect. So we're thankful to have her and Sarah Hatter for Life of the Month for May.
Thank you, Joe Ethan. All right. Real important, what we offer with as many visitors that we have coming to the beach. The safety is important, and thank you. And thanks to lifeguards for what they do. Next up, we've got planning and zoning's got 2 things to discuss. The first, which Scott, you've got.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is a proposed zoning text amendment to the sign regulations within the Gulf Shores zoning ordinance. For a little bit of background, the U.S. Supreme Court has made several decisions regarding signage and regulation of content of signage. Specifically, Reed versus Town of Gilbert dealt with distinctions between non-commercial and commercial regulation, and then City of Austin versus Reagan National Advertising, which offered some further distinction between off-premise and on-premise signs. In efforts to remain current, the city contracted with an outside attorney who has specialization in kind of these First Amendment matters to review our ordinance and suggest some changes. I will point out, so these changes are mainly about how we define signs and what they are, not, there's really no big substantive changes as far as like sizes and things like that. So this is really mainly definitions. I'm going to forego reading all of the changes and all of the definitions unless one of you really want me to. But so on the screen here is the various definitions that will be updated. So again, there's that off-premise, on-premise sign distinction, commercial versus non-commercial distinction, and several others. We also, now this isn't really sign related. In our definition section, we define vacation rental units multiple ways. So this is really just consolidating just how we define what a vacation rental dwelling unit is. We're not changing or proposing today any type of changes to those or their signage or anything, just how we define what they are. Section 18 of the zoning ordinance. So again, we just talked about definitions. Now we're into the actual regulation portion in Article 18 of the zoning ordinance. We spell out the purpose, which is important to make sure it's clear that the regulations we do impose upon signage, which is speech and expression, is narrowly tailored to achieve a specific government function, namely traffic safety and aesthetics. There's not a regulation on viewpoint or content, and that signs that allow commercial messages will also allow non-commercial. So if the city allows a sign for commercial reasons like advertising a business, that same sign can also share a viewpoint that's non-commercial. It could be, just a personal message of have a nice day, or it could even be a political message. And we do conform to, there's actually a list of case law, but again, like I stated earlier, it's that Reed v. Gilbert and City of Austin versus Reagan National Advertising. Another proposed change is the sign permitting procedures. Right now, we don't really have any timelines. So this is more of a due process concern, but so right now, if you submit a sign application, there's really no time limit on that forces staff to act. We are pretty efficient, I think, right now, but this would at least put it into the code of how many days we have to provide feedback to the applicant. So again, it's more of a due process thing. And then if there's a request to appeal a staff decision, it can go to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. And these are some of the signs that will be affected by this. The vast majority, if not all of these, really are signs that we don't ordinarily permit today. So they're exempt as long as they meet the requirements that are in the zoning ordinance. So certain size or location. And then we just kind of updated the definition of some of the prohibited signs. So like a vehicle sign, how you can drive around with a sign on your vehicle, but if it's parked for a long period of time out on the street in front of a business, it becomes a vehicle sign, and that's prohibited. So like I said, I wasn't going to read all the definitions, but I chose one just to kind of exemplify what some of the changes are. And forgive me for reading to you, but that's the easiest way. So right now in the zoning ordinance, the way we define a directional sign is it's a sign that contains no commercial message and must or may indicate entrances, exits, parking areas. So the proposed definition in the zoning text amendment is just a freestanding sign within 30 feet of an entrance or exit to a parking location. So that's just what the sign is, not necessarily what's on it, or definitely not what's on it. And again, in the regulations section for directional signs, again, I'm trying not to read directly to you, but so each directional sign, it gives us 2 square feet in area, 3 feet in height. What it says today is directional signs shall not include logos or any other form of commercial speech or message. So the proposed language simply just, again, goes back to the size, height, and location of where these types of signs can be. And they can put a logo on it. They can put any kind of message they do want on it. We're not going to regulate on the content, but we still can regulate time, manner, and place. Staff reviewed this. Again, this came from a constitutional lawyer, so we feel like we got good recommendations from him. Staff reviewed it, recommend the approval. Planning Commission held a public hearing at their last meeting on June 24th, and then voted to recommend this. We'll point out that the zoning text amendment is just like a rezoning request or zoning map amendment. You won't see this next week. State code requires a minimum advertising time, so it'll be later on a later agenda, not next week's agenda. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Council, any questions or comments?
Were these taken from a national standard, you were saying?
Not necessarily. Now, I'll say, like the example I gave, the directional sign, that was very common in zoning ordinances all over the country. But after the Supreme Court decisions, many sign ordinances are very similar to what we're proposing. Again, no regulation on content or viewpoint. So size, location, manner, time, those are all things that the city can decide for themselves how to regulate, but the content portion, that's a pretty national standard.
But these signs comply with our attorney that we've asked to.
Yes, sir. These proposed changes will comply. Yes, sir.
Any other questions, council? Audience, questions, comments? Anybody? Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Lee Jones, got a PUD overlay request.
Sir, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I have a PUD application request. This, much like the zoning text amendment, this is a zoning action, so this will not be up for public hearing next week. It has been advertised, but it's been advertised for your July 28th meeting for public hearing. So we'll hear it in a few weeks. This request is for planning and development master plan overlay to allow the construction of a mixed-use development on a 23-acre site. The property is located in the northeast corner of the municipality along Foley Beach Express, just north of the Auburn Vet Center. These are some maps that illustrate the location. You can see the map on the right is the entire city limits. The red star indicates the northeastern portion of our community, and that's where the site is located. The image on the left is a zoning map, and you can see immediately to the north are the city of Foley city limits. Immediately to the south, that ED zoning is the Auburn vet facility, and much of this area is zoned general business and is largely undeveloped other than a mini storage facility on Coastal Gateway Boulevard. The site is outlined in yellow on that map. These are some existing ground shots of the property. Again, it's about 23 acres. It's that area, it's over 100 acres, is predominantly farmed. Today it's leased out for farming purposes, so not much to see here other than the bottom right image, which is the Auburn facility, and that view is from Coastal Gateway looking northeast. As I mentioned, this has been noticed for public hearing on July 28th. There was no correspondence that has been received from that public notice, nor was there any received from the public hearing that was held at the Planning Commission back in October. The Planning Commission did recommend approval. They're a recommending body on this, and the City Council, as a zoning action, you all have the ultimate say as to whether or not to approve it. But the Planning Commission did recommend approval unanimously 6-0. This is the illustrative master plan for the PUD. The image to the right. So you can see up on the northern portion of the site are retail mixed-use buildings. That's one component of this master plan. And then to the south, about 17 acres, has 7 different multifamily buildings with 300 multifamily units. They all surround a retention pond as an amenity for the overall development. The uses on the retail mixed-use buildings are confined to retail, restaurant, banks, offices, express shipping, and personal services. So there's a laundry list of uses that are permitted by the underlying zoning, and they have kind of culled it down to this shorter list of uses that would be allowed within the PUD. Within the multifamily portion of the development, they're proposing about 5 acres of shared open space. That includes an infinity pool, which is just on the north side of the pond, piers those are the dog parks. There are 4 different dog parks. They're kind of the bookends on either side of the lake, on the southern part of the lake on the east and west. And those are piers that come out into the pond, pickleball courts, the dog parks, walking trails, and a large clubhouse. They're also proposing to build out some roadway infrastructure on the north and west sides of the property. So as you know, Planning Commission knows very well, we go through 7 different criteria for Planning Commission with the PUD. I'm not going to bore you with the details of all those criteria, but we look at all the adopted plans for the city, the land use plan, which has the future land use map component, which is a portion of the map here on the screen, the major street plan, the parks and rec plan, the bicycle and pedestrian plan. So the 2 plans that I'm going to focus on here that we use as guides for making recommendations to the Planning Commission are both the land use plan and the major street plan. So the land use plan, this is the future land use map. The red color is mixed use, retail mixed use. And then the blue color is educational. So these are areas that are slated for educational uses in the future. If you'll remember from the Vision 2025 plan as well as the land use plan, this area has always, for many years, has been slated as both a K through 12 opportunity as well as higher learning related Auburn and the University of Alabama, USA, and others for kind of an educational campus on that blue property. The yellow is residential medium. That just envisions everything in the yellow, which is pretty much building out according to that vision for predominantly single-family residential development. So that's mostly what you see out there, and that is consistent with the future land use map. This PUD does help implement the future land use plan from a transportation standpoint. It has an access off of Foley Beach Express, but predominantly is access from new roadways that will be constructed with the plan. It utilizes shared use driveways as well as connections in between the uses. The scale of the development, it cuts building heights that are permitted in BG from 8 stories to 4 stories. So it is consistent with a 3-story max that's permitted in all the yellow areas and the residential areas. And it also provides for residential uses in what staff feels is the appropriate location along a major thoroughfare like Foley Beach Express, where we would expect to see some higher density residential uses as opposed to single family detached. So that's kind of our first plan that we typically look at. And this mixed use development is consistent with that land use plan. This is the conceptual site plan for the PUD. I'm going to focus on both the commercial component on the north, which is outlined in red dashed lines, and then the multifamily portion to the south. So what they're proposing, again, I've already been through the uses, the lot size, the minimum lot size for a PUD in this location is 3 acres. They're at 5.9 acres. The maximum building height that's permitted is 8 stories. They're proposing 4. They're at the maximum building coverage as well as ISR. They're at the low end of what they're proposing for floor area ratio or FAR. The open space for the retail piece will be determined at site plan. And the setbacks are consistent for the most part with what the BG zoning allows. Again, the parking will also be determined at site plan because parking is based on the use. So restaurants have different parking requirements in office and so on. So once the site plan comes in, that's when we would apply the parking standards. They're looking at 2 phases. The first phase is about half of the retail component and all of the multifamily component. The second phase is the westernmost retail component. They have submitted some commercial and mixed-use building design guidelines. The buildings are a story. They're placed at the front setback. They have metal roofs, also a mixture of masonry and fiber cement siding as the primary facade materials. The architecture will match that of the multifamily. Moving on to the multifamily component of the PUD, again, 300 units are proposed on about 17 acres. That's 17 units per acre. BG, if multifamily is permitted, which it's a conditional use in BG, allows up to 20 units per acre or 345 units. They're proposing 4 stories. Multifamily can be 4 stories in BG. They're well below the building coverage and the ISR for BG, as well as they're about half of the floor area ratio that would be permitted in the base zoning of BG. They're exceeding the open space by about 6%. The setbacks, now we've highlighted 115 feet here because the setbacks for multifamily are relatively shallow. And they want to put parking in between the buildings and the street, and that pushes the buildings back. So the multifamily buildings are much farther off the street than would typically be allowed for multifamily development. They're exceeding the required parking spaces, and they have a laundry list of proposed amenities within the multifamily piece: clubhouse, pool, fire pits. We'll go over that in a little bit more detail on the open space plan. Now, on some of these slides, I've identified the modifications that are requested. So the PUD overlay, it acts as an overlay to the base zoning. The base zoning in this case is general business. So any modifications to that underlying zoning district, any of the standards, have to be spelled out in the PUD. So everything that you see in red on these slides is a request for a modification to the underlying zoning. So on the multifamily piece, for the use, multifamily is not a by right use in BG. City Council, you all adopted a zoning text amendment about 5 years ago that disallowed multifamily in BG by right and made it a conditional use within general business. So in order for the multifamily use to be permitted, it can either go through the PUD process or the CUP process. In this case, they are proposing a PUD master plan. So if you all approve the multifamily as a use in the PUD, then it would be allowed. So that's an appropriate process to go through. But multifamily cannot be a use on this property without that permission through the PUD. They have submitted some multifamily design guidelines. This is an elevation of one of the 7 buildings. They're all 4 stories. They all have elevator access. They're not walk-up garden apartments. They're elevator access from an internal corridor. They have at least 1 story of brick veneer. The rest is fiber cement siding. They have some low entry roofs with metal roofing. And the maximum building height will not exceed 4 stories. So these, again, everything in red is a modification request. City Council, you recently is relative 2 or 3 years ago, adopted some design standards for multifamily developments. They are requesting 9 modifications to those multifamily design standards. They're located in Article 11 of the zoning ordinance. And that is the first request is to allow a single housing type. And this is called a corridor flat. It's spelled out in the zoning ordinance, but that's an apartment unit. They're supposed to provide 4 different housing types. So the housing types range from a cottage to a townhouse to a duplex to a patio home. So there's a wide range of housing types that they could do that are prescripted by the zoning ordinance. They just want to do 1. The second modification is to not raise the finished floor to 18 inches. That's a requirement for multifamily in the zoning ordinance. They want to put these slab on grade. The third modification is to allow reduction in the 12-foot minimum width of a private outdoor space. There's a standard in the multifamily design standards for dimensions of private outdoor space. That minimum dimension, like if you have a patio or a balcony for an apartment unit, it needs to be a minimum width of 12 feet. They would like to go below that 12-foot minimum, so they're asking for a modification there. Also to allow increased setbacks because they don't front directly on the street like the multifamily design standards intend. Again, that's that 150-foot setback, so they can put parking in between the street and the building. allow private driveways as opposed to public streets. Multifamily design standards require public streets with units on the streets and parking behind. That leads me to number 6, where they want to put parking in between the building and the street rather than parking to the rear of the building. And they'd also like a modification to allow different amenities, which they have a lot. They have more amenities than the ordinance requires. The only issue is that the ordinance requires playgrounds for multifamily. Assuming there will be children, they would prefer not to do the playgrounds, but have proposed other amenities in replacement of the playgrounds. Also, there's a requirement for a 10 feet wide multi-use trail around a detention pond. If you're going to use a wet pond as required open space, you have to put a 10-foot trail around it, all the way around it. They want to do an 8-foot trail. So that's another modification request. Also, they're requesting a deviation from the 2-to-1 width ratio. Again, a detention pond is usually really efficient. It's either a square or a circle, and it's not really curvilinear or natural. It doesn't look very natural. The multifamily design standards were intentional in saying that if you're going to have a detention pond and you want to actually use it as open space, it needs to look like a natural feature. So they have the 2-to-1 ratio, which they don't meet. Their detention pond is more of a pond. It's more of a square or a circle. So those are all the modification requests from the multifamily design standards. Again, another plan that we look at, we worked with this applicant to try to implement the city's major street plan. That image to the left is a zoomed in version of the major street plan. For those of you who don't know, the image on the right is the adopted major street plan. We're working right now on multiple projects to implement that plan. The streets in blue are existing streets that are called for improvements. Many of those improvements are going on now, as you can tell from barrels and cones. But the dashed orange lines are proposed new streets to help create a finer grid in order to disperse traffic throughout the community, so they're not all on one north, south, or east, west street. And this particular property is in that red dashed box on the left image. And so there's a proposed new street, which is on the alignment of what would be County Road 10 on the north side. And then there's a north-south connector street that would go across Coastal Gateway Boulevard to the new high school site and beyond, which is on the west side of the property. So we worked with this developer to implement both of those new streets in their plan. This is their circulation plan for vehicles there on the right. Foley Beach Express is on the far right. Coastal Gateway is on the bottom there. So in the first phase, they're proposing to construct County Road 10 with the light blue dots would be constructed to their northern entrance, which is that northern asterisk. And the light blue dots on the south would be a new street that's constructed from the entrance to the high school up to their southern entrance. That would all be constructed as part of phase 1. The multi-use trails would continue around for bikes and pedestrians, but when phase 2 came online, that's when the green dots would be built out. So they are proposing to dedicate right-of-way and construct roadways in order to implement the major street plan. Again, in red, these are their requested modifications. One is to Article 14 for off-street parking and loading. They want to do an increased driveway width in their parking lots of 26 feet rather than what the code requires, which is 24. Reasoning for that is to fight fires for buildings at 4 stories. The fire code requires a minimum width of 26 feet to set up your apparatus and fight the fires in some taller buildings. So they're required to go to 26 from the zoning required 24 based on the fire code. Article 15 modification, and that the PUDs are not supposed to be gated. In this case, they would like to gate the PUD, and that's another modification request. Open space plan. Again, there are a lot of amenities here. Everything in kind of light yellow around the pond, as well as the pond area and pathway around, are all shared open space. They qualify as shared open space based on the multifamily design standards. They meet or exceed, other than the playgrounds, the shared open space requirements. Again, it's 31% of the site is shared open space. Everything that's shown in green is additional open space, doesn't count as shared, but it's about 5.5 acres of landscape buffers, landscaping, just open areas in between buildings. They are requesting a modification to Article 12, which requires a landscape island every 10 parking spaces. They're requesting a modification to allow them to provide 12 parking spaces between landscaped islands. This is an aerial perspective of the central open space within the project. You can see the pickleball courts and pavilion on the right, the infinity pool with both the pavilions there, as well as another pavilion and fire pit area off to the west there. Staff and the Planning Commission are recommending approval. This does meet, it helps implement the future land use plan as well as the major street plan. A development mitigation plan, which is a requirement of the zoning ordinance for multifamily projects, will be required at the time of site plan application. This will be an updated traffic impact study, which they have submitted for the zoning, but also that plan will be looking at stormwater infrastructure, as well as sewer and water for the site, and will make recommendations for any off-site improvements for those utilities. Second is prior to the issuance of a building permit, FAA Form 7460 will be required. That's typical of any building within the airport overlay district, the flight area overlay district. 3, at the time of the first site plan application, the applicant shall work with staff to incorporate the recommendations of the development mitigation plan related to Wavemaker Way and County Road 10. Again, that plan is going to be looking at all the infrastructure, and they'll need to work with staff on those, on implementing that mitigation plan. 4, this is all related to the TIS, the future north-south roadway, which is now named as Wavemaker Way. That right-of-way has been platted and named, as well as the County Road 10 extension shall be constructed prior to CO in the first phase. Construction of Waymaker Way shall be coordinated with the planned improvements for the high school access. And finally, the existing U-turn on Foley Beach Express shall also incorporate what will be a decel lane coming south on Foley Beach Express. So if you get in that U-turn and come back down, you can get in a decel lane to turn into this project. 5, access roads, parking lot drives, gates, and turning radii details shall be reviewed and approved by the fire marshal prior to site plan approval, and all building permit plans shall comply with the 2021 International Fire Code. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lee. Council, any questions or comments specific to Leach's presentation?
Lee, I have with them, they're requested to build on grade, not up 18 inches. I just have a little concern with the way where that's located. If the detention pond is going to be sufficient during a hurricane, because that is an area that holds water a lot better.
Yeah.
So I'm a little concerned about not building up a little bit.
Yeah, and just to explain a little bit on that, they will have to fill that site. So they will be bringing in some fill, but also when they build the new roads, their finished floors based on the code of ordinances will require them to be 12 inches above the crown of the road. So they will be elevated.
Actually will be.
Yeah, the 18-inch requirement is more for, because in the multifamily design standards, if you have a cottage that you live in and it's 10 feet from the sidewalk, you elevate the house 18 inches, then you get more privacy. If you're in your bedroom or living room, you actually look down on the sidewalk rather than someone looking in your bedroom window. So that's one of the reasons for the 18 inches. The other reason is it helps prevent additional grading on a site that has trees or wetlands or anything that need to be preserved. If you raise the house, you can keep the existing grade for the most part and a lot of the natural features. In this case, it's an existing agricultural field, so we don't have to worry too much about that issue.
I just I've seen where my son lives during the hurricanes, they're in a similar deal and they come close.
Yeah.
The other thing in this proposal, they will connect County Road 10. They will do that.
They will do that. They will connect County Road 10 to where the entrance to the new high school is, or this road will come all the way up and will connect to County Road 10. Yes.
Excuse me, wait.
No, I was gonna say, that's an awful lot of information, and we'd be here hours if, I'll have to get with you one day and go over some of this.
That's fine.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
a lot
I'd
of
be
it I
happy
didn't
to-
understand, and
Happy to
Yeah,
go through it with you.
okay.
Yeah.
The fill component, when they elevate that up, I mean, a lot of what we see is compacted material that does not perk. And that adds to drainage issues because water can't percolate down, it just runs off. So if they're gonna put that much fill in it, are we gonna have any control over how it drains and is it perk?
Yeah, we'll have all the control that we need at site plan. So the PUD is zoning, so it really establishes their, what I call the bulk standards, the height, uses, the setbacks, FAR, ISR, all those things. But at site plan, they'll do a geotech study, especially for the streets, but they knowing this applicant, they may have already done a geotech for the site itself, but they'll do a geotech, which a city engineer and her staff will review their grading and drainage plans against the geotech. Fill material will be tested. All that will happen at site plan review.
Thank you. Council, any other questions?
Yeah, just a couple comments. I do appreciate the hard work of the staff, the planning commission, and the developer getting this plan to this stage. However, I do have some real concerns with this plan. The first is we intentionally took multifamily out of business general zoning. We did that years ago because we wanted to control growth and control multifamily and the residences that are can potentially create a infrastructure burden to our schools and our roadways and our first responders and all the things that make this city great. So I have concerns about us deviating from our plan of not allowing multifamily in BG zoning. Additionally, the multifamily that they proposed isn't consistent with our multifamily designations on how you develop multifamily in the appropriate zoning. So, townhouse apartment type buildings are the one style that they propose for multifamily in an area that's not zoned for multifamily. So I have concerns with that. The third is 300 additional units in that area as it's expanding with the new, high school with 1,000 students starting up there and the roadways. I'm just concerned about that amount of new families potentially causing a burden to our infrastructure. And then lastly, even if they overcame those first three, in my mind, I would envision a mixed-use multifamily development a little more integrated. The site plan here looks very disjointed. You have some commercial on the north side and then, 4-story apartments on the south side with nice amenities inside, but visually it's not. I would like to see commercial integrated into the design of the entire footprint if we were even to allow that to occur. I mean, historically, this council has not upzoned any property. We've actually diminished units across the board since I've been on the council. We do balance that with property rights and zoning that's in place, but we have the right zoning that doesn't allow this at this time. So I have some real concerns and I'm anxious or very willing to hear what the public has to say and address that. But those issues would have to be overcome before I could vote positively on this. So just want to make that statement.
Makes sense.
some good comments, Jason.
One other thing, Lee, does the detention pond overflow anywhere, or does it hold all the water supposedly?
It holds all the water. I don't know if Jenny's here today or not. I haven't studied and again, we get the details of the design of their detention pond at the time of site plan. So
Yeah.
typically a detention pond does have an overflow
Yeah.
to the lowest point on the property and gets out into a natural drain. But I thought that was Jenny.
I have noticed some of the newer developments that they have the overflow going into our, go ahead, then.
Oh. Are you
Overflow
familiar with
into
this
the-
detention pond at all?
Let the engineers do it.
So we've seen this detention pond at like a concept level, but I haven't studied it in detail. We'll get to that level when we get to the site plan. So this pond is designed with an overflow, so it will overflow to the lowest area. It does have to have somewhere to go ultimately.
Do we know now, or we gotta wait to see where it overflows to?
I don't have all of those
Okay.
details right now.
I just know it's gotta overflow somewhere.
It does,
Okay.
yes. In a natural path of wherever it used to go.
Okay. Be interested to know where that is at some point.
There is a series of drains through this property that drain that agricultural land. There's one that goes just north of the Auburn site and under the Foley Beach Express. And that's the direction this piece of property is flowing. So it will ultimately get into that drain that goes under the Foley Beach Express.
That's where my concern was, where that went.
Yeah.
And where it could, what existing drains could hold
Mike, if
back.
you could quit talking, please, or and interrupting while we're having up here. Thank you very much. Could I ask you, if you've got some comments, there'll be an opportunity in just a minute for you to give your comments. But I want to, if the council is finished, I want to ask the developer who is here if they've got anything they want to say. I know you came here for this meeting. If you got any comments you'd like to discuss, you'd be welcome.
That was just my concern, the overflow, where it went, and whether that could take care of it or not. That was a
If
concern
it
of
can't, it
mine.
would have to be improved in order to take care of it.
That's my answer.
And that would happen at site plan once we get all the engineering drawings and
If we went
calculations.
forward with it.
If it goes forward, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Council, anything else? Obviously, there's someone who wants to come to the microphone and talk, you're welcome to.
I'm Jean Austin, and I live in Gulf Shores. I've got two concerns. Traffic, and you said they were going to do some studies on coastal and on the Beach Express. There are times, especially in the summer, where it can take to go 2 hours, 45 minutes to an hour. So I think that the traffic, if you're going to get that many people to that area, can be a big, big problem. The other thing is the amenities. Yes, there's very nice amenities, but none of those amenities are focused on kids. They were all pretty much adults. If you don't have a playground, there's no place for swings and slides for kids. Everything was pools and tennis courts and stuff like that that are more, that's all focused on adults. That's not focused on kids. And if you're going to try to put that many units in an area, you're going to have kids playing there. And you don't want them in the street. And, you know, it's not like there's a playground across at the school because that's a high school. You're not going to have playgrounds over there either. So it's just, so getting rid of those amenities of the playgrounds, I think, is totally wrong. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
Let's get back to the planning commission meeting. That's the one that was misprinted and the residents didn't get a chance to come and the planning commission voted yes. I happened to be there by accident on another matter and I didn't get up and speak. Dr. Dyken, you changed my, what I was going to say here. I appreciate what you said. You take those 300 units, what, families now get at least 2 or 3 cars? Coastal Gateway was a disaster this weekend, and I'm speaking for hundreds of citizens. We're tired of this. We're literally tired of what's going on in this town. It was ridiculous on Coastal Gateway, listening to the horns, the loud music. The traffic was backed up from Foley Beach Express to 59. I understand about the concert at the wharf, but there's times now in the summer, the traffic's halfway backed up Coastal Gateway. We need to stop this building until we get this infrastructure. I appreciate what you said about the school. Let's get this school open. Let's see what the traffic's going to be. Let's get that park that was promised to us. Let's get that fire station that was promised to us. We got residents in our area from the 20s to the 80s, 90s. There's nothing for us to do for our age around that area. We were all looking so forward to that park going in. The building is just, it's got to stop. We don't need this apartment complex, and we don't need 20 ball fields. We don't need more hotels. We don't need an RV park on Coastal Gateway. We need something for the residents who are here. I'm a homeowner. I pay taxes here. I'm here 99% of the time. We need something for us. I come to these meetings. I've been coming to these meetings for years. Do you know how many times you talk about visitors and not residents? I lost count this year. Y'all are up in the 30s, and for residents, you're in the single digits. That's how this town has changed. I just hope you can do something to save this, because residents do care, and they're starting to voice their opinions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Lee, anything else?
You want
I
to?
I do want to make a couple comments about the planning commission, because the planning commission did approve this. This project, it been in the workings for a couple of years and started out with the apartments and then had the commercial component added to it, and then some infrastructure improvements that were added to it. A lot of water under the bridge since this started. And we weren't dealing with our school capacity when this project first started. A lot of issues we weren't dealing with, cost overruns to our transportation projects. But, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and kind of speak for the planning commission. The project itself did offer a few advantages as far as that location. It had ingress and egress to Foley Beach Express, which served a better location than being internal in a residential neighborhood. There were commercial components that could provide services and all to the communities there that they could get to, so they didn't have to go back out on 59 and circle around and get to stores and restaurants. So the planning commission did find some merit, and I think the planning commission focused on the site plan itself and not really some of these other issues that we're speaking about. They were discussed in depth, and Mike, you were there. You can testify to how long we spent on this in the planning commission. We talked about schools. We talked about all the waiver requests and the uncertainty of not building to the new standard, but then there was a lot of discussion about what it did offer. So, and then there's been several months since that was on the planning commission. So, you know, there's nuances here to be considered, and, you know, the density issue, giving density to a property that doesn't have it by right. Obviously, that's always been a concern up here in the school capacity is a major concern too. So a lot's transpired over the 2 years. I can't support it anymore. There may have been a time where it made sense. It had elements that made sense, but it doesn't anymore. But I thought it was just worthy of a little bit of, since the planning commission approved it and recommended, knowing it was going to the council. Council has more information about school capacities and understanding some of these other nuances. So, but it didn't go without lengthy discussions on the topics that Councilman Dyken raised tonight. So, just wanted to share that night with you here tonight.
Thank you, Phil. Yes, sir.
I'm Don Chambers, live in Craft Farms North. I live on the corner of Augusta and Rural Trim. And you think Coastal Gateway is a raceway? Come down there when it's backed up and the Foley Beach Express is up. They come in front of my house, run down there at a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, 40 to 50. And they're just cutting through, going there, going into Craft Farms, going through there, going down behind Target, going behind there, going to County Road 4. So when it's backed up, it's a racetrack, and it's bumper to bumper. And that's before the school. Next thing, you'll be 300 more apartment units. We already had 80 put into our area, which is originally, multifamily dwelling there in Craft Farms North development. And we have 367 private residences in there also. So it's just, I don't think County Road 6, even when it goes down by the golf course down Augusta, it's going to take any more. And then if the park goes in, it's going to dump in there too. With the other development that's behind us of the senior living. It's supposed to be senior living, but they didn't build it as that. But that's just my concerns is the infrastructure for the roads is dumping it into our residences. And there's time I can sit out there, look out the front window, and it's backed up. And I'm on the very first part of where Augusta starts, heading towards Highway 59. So that's just my concerns is I think the high schools can put a lot more into our area. And I don't know if it's going to take it or not. That's my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Oh, you had one right there. I think the.
Got another one?
Blue shirt right there. Yeah.
Applicant.
Yeah.
That's the applicant. Yes, sir.
Applicant.
I'm Brent Osborne with Bowden Development Company. We're out of Phoenix City, Alabama. First, I wanted to thank all the city staff and planning commission, mayor, everybody for spending the amount of time they spent with us in this journey since, actually it was October of 21 when we first came down. And I know that a lot of things have changed in that period of time. But I wanted to compliment you guys on the amount of work that you did to help move this along. We did have a lot of meetings over that course of period of time, and there were requests brought by the city to us that we tried to address. We brought things back as a part of this development that were above and beyond those minimum standards or requirements that helped create the development that we had envisioned. And that was a really high-end, nice, multifamily community. And with that has a lot of amenities. And with that, we were bringing some retail components that were asked of us early on that would be a part of that, to be a part of the PUD. That we felt like that would be something desired by those people in that area, since that portion of Gulf Shores was really shy on any type of retail or restaurant components for those people that live in the area. Also, there's a good bit of infrastructure that we were proposing to bring in to the city with roadway extensions, the associated utilities with that would be borne by the developer and would be a big public benefit. We are a small development firm out of, like I said, Phoenix City, Alabama. We're family owned, and we're not merchant developers that come into an area or some large REIT, public entity that'll buy or acquire or build a development and then let the maintenance go down, won't be part of the community, and then sell it. And I know that from my years of development, that is not something we do. We maintain our properties. Currently, we've been in business over 50 years as a family operation. First units that we acquired was in 1994, and we still have those units. Our group, our property management, we participate in the community and are part of it. We're not some corporate entity from LA or some big city that is just looking for the ability to squeeze all they can out of that multifamily and then walk away from it. So as we've worked through the process, we've seen a lot of excitement about the development from staff, as well as, worked a lot with Councilman Harris, and Councilman Dyken was in some of the meetings. Mayor Kraft was, just in different processes of what the city needed and what we may be able to economically provide with the development part of it. Was the initial construction of County Road 10 that the city had desired to take that over to 59, as well as the connection and the alignment with Gulf Shores High School. We were contacted about some coordination issues where we've met with the a civil engineer that the city was working for to make sure that we coordinated that so that it was a planned development and not something that didn't properly align for traffic. There was also the right-of-way that we were giving for even further. We're donating right-of-way for this work, and there was coordination with a potential other development that the CVB is involved with. There was reasons behind each one of these multifamily variations that we proposed. It was not arbitrary. There was specific thought put into each one of them and a lot of discussion. For instance, the housing type. I mean, we have a 4-story development with elevators that allows FHA, which is a fair housing, access to every level of that development. 2-story and 3-story product, walk-up doesn't provide that. We provided 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units that provides for a diverse family mix within that development. Mobility impaired units, that's for people who have mobility impairment. They can live on the top floor of an apartment community, where quite often they're not able to do that. So there was, and that ties back to some of those specifics about the height off the grade and the ability to do that. So let's talk about the setbacks. We were pulling back off of the street because we're facing uses that are not like to the multifamily. We're providing some barriers, some noise attenuation from those other uses that would be very beneficial to the residents of the community or the people visiting those. So with that, and I understand you mentioned some concerns. Things have changed over the years since we started with the economy and other issues. I would still like for you to consider this favorably. We invested a lot of time, a lot of money in moving this development forward to craft something that the city would be proud to be at its entry coming down Foley Beach Express, and one that would serve the community well for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hosmer.
Mayor, can I just add less than a minute?
Yeah, okay.
Sir, I guess you don't live here.
Oh, hold on. You talk to us. Don't talk to him.
Okay.
Please.
Real quick. He can build a $20,000 a month rent. It's still putting 600 plus vehicles on the road. That's our complaint. The residents are fed up with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I ask you a little levity to the discussion. So, anybody else with any comments about this project? Thank you, Lee.
Yes, sir.
Brent, you got a couple of things for us?
Yes, sir. We have 2 public assembly permit applications for your consideration next week. The first is a 10th annual Bloody Mary 5K run and 1 mile fun run and a walk. It is scheduled to take place on Saturday, August the 30th at 7:30 a.m. Before you on the screen is the route where it would start at the Waterway Village parking lot. And this is, again, the 10th anniversary of this event. And they run west to 5th Street. They circle back around to 3rd Street south to Clubhouse, east to 2nd Street, back north to West Canal, and end back at the start-finish line. Tacky Jacks is the race headquarters, and the after event would take place at Tacky Jacks. We have the applicant I just spoke to on the phone. We do not have his insurance yet, but he assured me that he would get that to us prior to next week's action, and also have a letter from Tacky Jacks offering support for this event. It has been reviewed by all of our city staff, and it's going to be ready for your consideration next Monday with a recommendation to approve. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thanks, Grant. Council, any questions or comments? Anybody in the audience? Next.
And the next is also a event that's been held in our community for a number of years. This is the Bike MS Tour de Beach. This is a bike ride, not a race, but a bike ride fundraiser for National Multiple Sclerosis Society. It's a 2-day event requesting to take place on September 27th and September 28th. There are 3 routes per day with an overall estimated attendance of about 200 bikers. All these rides begin and end at the Lake Shelby area. And so the city facilities that are being requested really are just the roadways and the rights of ways. And they run a number of different routes, short route, 18 miles, middle at 45 miles, and a long route at 75 miles, and similar routes on Sunday. So I've got photos of the routes here for you. This is what they call their short route on Saturday, and it would basically start at Lake Shelby, and this stays mostly within the state park, rolls over onto Canal Road, and then ends up back at Lake Shelby for the end of this ride. The middle distance route actually takes them from the Lake Shelby area across the Highway 59 bridge, up and around all the way to Magnolia Springs. And then they would turn back around and end back at the Gulf State Park area at Lake Shelby. And then the long distance ride on Saturday is a 75-mile route. Takes them on the first part of the shorter middle route, then all the way up to Point Clear, loops around and comes back into Lake Shelby. And then on the Sunday, short route is out and back to the Floribama area, and then back on Perdido Key, and then back to Lake Shelby. The second middle route goes out to NES, and then all the way back to Lake Shelby. And then the final is just a out and back. This one does go all the way to West Beach Boulevard, and they have requested the use of Little Lagoon Pass Park as a water station and a break area if they need one. And so that's part of this request too, is to utilize the Lake Shelby area, pop a tent up there, and have a water station there for support to the riders. This application has also been reviewed by staff, and what's a little different, this is not a race, this is a bike ride, and state law and there are no laws against riding bicycles on roadways if you follow the traffic lights and the traffic signs. And so we feel like this is an appropriate request. We've done this for a number of years with no incidents, and therefore we will be recommending approval for this event at your meeting next week. Happy to answer any questions.
What are the dates again?
September 27th and September 28th of this year. So 2 months from now.
We've had a lot of discussion tonight about traffic and congestion on roads, and I can't imagine that this won't add to that. Now, we don't know what September is going to be, but I think it's something we need to think about. And also, and we talked about that a little this morning at our staff meeting, the use of the Highway 59 bridge and the construction that's going on that third lane. I think because several of these races use that for getting north and south out of the city limits, and I think that making sure our construction schedule on the roadway and that bridge matches with this. So just something to think about as we study it. And all this will be on next Monday.
It will be, and we can get back together with the police department who have reviewed this application, and they are in support of it at this point, but we can sure get back together and go through the merits of the applicant and get the applicant here to discuss some of the concerns. You know, riding bikes on roadways is legal as long as you follow traffic laws, and so it's a hard thing to not allow them to do this.
Well, specifically, I'm worried about the bridge
Yes, sir.
and the construction on that bridge, so. Any other comments, council? Anybody with anything additional? That ends the formal agenda for tonight. Do we have, I see some school folks here. You get any update or anything from the school that we need to, or want to hear about?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to notice that this Thursday, we will be having our July combined work session / regular called meeting. That'll be this Thursday in this venue at 4 p.m. Number of items will be discussed, including personnel additions for the upcoming school year. As always, we'll have construction updates on our two major projects, the new high school and the central office annex. We'll be having reports from Mr. Hand and his group on those items. Dr. Aikman regrets he couldn't be here today. He's in Washington, D.C. representing us at a superintendent's conference in Washington, D.C., but Dr. Harrison is here with me today if you have any questions. We will be discussing at length the new high school, the project, and the process that has gone on throughout that process. So once again, the public is always invited to attend. We also have those meetings streamed live on Facebook, but we'll be here in this venue at 4 o'clock. And any questions you might have, we're here to answer them.
Thank you, Kevin. Council, any questions?
Thank you.
Clint, I'm going to ask you if you've got an update on transportation improvements, kind of as we talk about every week.
Yes, so you may have noticed if you went north today, they are paving on 59, just north of the bridge, working on paving that third lane. They were working right there at West First today, getting that, and then a little bit up at 34th Avenue, but they will be paving on that this week. We're not going to open that lane up for a while now because we're having an issue getting the actual tape that's used to strop the bridge, so that's going to delay that a little bit. But and then also on East First Street, our sidewalk project that we have the TAP grant there between 16th Avenue and 20th Avenue. There will be some intermittent closures where they're working just due to the amount of traffic and how tight that is right there. So like today, we had to close between 19th and 20th. But so as they work, that closure will go down. But we told them they have to keep access to the apartment complexes and the businesses and all that to either the north or the south.
Thank you, Clint. Jesse, any airport news to share?
Evening, Council, Mayor. Yeah, so we, as of like this week, we've actually benchmarked about 10,000 passengers flying out of Gulf Shores. So that's our 10,000 employments, as we call them. So very good results. We have shuttles, a lot of shuttles signed up. We've got 9 different shuttle companies, and now we're getting hotel chains so we can facilitate movement for those inbound passengers get them right to their destination. But really, really good activity at the airport, and right now looking to pursue potential expansion. So I say expansion, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we're looking at the design for a potential expansion. Right now, we can get 1 aircraft on the ground boarding. It gets a little tight in that gate area, but we're looking at this fall potentially seeing what schedule could be offered for Allegiant and go from there. But right now, we're just kind of in the planning, in the idea phase. So that's my update. It's all very good.
Thank you. Chief Nettemeyer, anything to report, traffic, any issues or anything to update us on?
So I will report that Chris Miller, our Sergeant of Special Operations, said that the 4th of July crowd this year was bigger than what he had ever seen before. We had several officers working that detail and got everybody out as fast as we could. I know it's not perfect, but we don't have the ability to direct people to the south. It's a little thing called the Gulf of America in the way, so we only have 3 ways to get people out. But we did get people out very well. We had a lot of issues down at the beach this weekend, primarily just disorder, but we had plenty of officers working this weekend and everything worked out well. I will talk, we're working on dealing something with the noise ordinance. We've ordered some decibel meters, and we're going to start taking a look at the noise coming from some of the places, and there are a lot of intricate factors that come into play here. And we're going to take a look at our ordinance and maybe put a graph or a number on what has always been determined to be reasonableness. So preliminary stages, we're going to do some work and hopefully get you something before the council before too long.
Thank you. That ends our public stuff, so anyone that has any questions or comments or anything they want to talk about. Yes, George.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is George Sinak. I reside on West First Avenue in between Windmill Ridge Road and 59, pretty much across from Bahama Bob's. I saw some things this weekend, along with all the people, that were kind of disturbing. On West First Avenue, we have no sidewalks, we have no street lights, and West First Avenue has become a secondary street to West Beach Boulevard. Now, I observed people walking down First Avenue, trying to walk on the edge of the pavement and then the grass, cars going by, and I know it's a 25-mile-an-hour zone, but we actually had people on these electric motorcycles passing cars, running the stop signs. It was very, very bad. Actually saw one lady try to get out of the way, try to get off the pavement to walk on the grass that fell down. We had to help her up. I think the east part of Gulf Shores looks great. A lot of us in the neighborhood, we're hoping that this Envision 2025 has come and gone. We were hoping to get improvements along First Avenue, and nothing to this day has been done. Now, there's a 60-foot easement from the center line to people's property lines. There's enough room to put 2 4-foot sidewalks on each side of that road. There's plenty of transformers and power to put streetlights so people can walk down there safely at night. And something has to be done about the speed and traffic. I mean, everybody uses West First Avenue as a bypass road to West Beach. They come flying down there. Most of the time, they don't stop. Giving tickets is not an answer. There's a great, I know you probably don't like them, but over there, right down from the Shrimp Basket, right behind, by the Purple Octopus there, there's not a speed bump, but a hump bump. And I personally would like to see these hump bumps at these stop signs, or at least maybe something painted on the street stop. Because, again, those might as well be yield signs to the majority of people. And we have an enormous amount of people that use that road. They come all the way off of Windmill Ridge Road, they cross over the Bad Bridge, it's a walking bridge, really, come on down. They come on down from the condos. I mean, I love seeing the people. But to see these people having to struggle at night to walk down there, you can't even walk to a restaurant or anything without being safe. I don't know what happened to the development of West First Avenue.
but I would like to see it go forward. That's my main beef, not beef. Main item I want to discuss was West First Avenue. Couple other things that I'd like to talk about. The city owns a parking lot right across from Bahama Bob's. Now, if you were to go there at any night, say 10 o'clock to 6 a.m., that thing is half full, if not more than half full. Those people aren't beachgoers. Those are people from the condos, both the condo on the north side and on the south side, using that city property for their parking. Which I don't think it's fair to the people who want to go to the beach. Now, I don't know who owns the property, the vacant lot to the east of that parking area. But he's got to be really nice because the overflow from the parking lot parks over there. They park in the dirt, they park everywhere. They're parking, again, I have no complaints about this, but they're parking up and down First Avenue along the easements. I just got back from Cocoa Beach, and I was surprised to see that just about everywhere where there's parking for beaches and restaurants and stuff, it's paid parking. Pretty simple. You look at the sign, you take your phone, you contact the number, you put the number of the sign up there, put your credit card in, it's paid parking. I would love to see paid parking, excuse me, in the existing parking lot where that the city has, as well as, I know things are all about money, but I feel really confident that if there was paid parking, the city could buy that property from that person who lets everybody park over there down on the street, and it would pay for any type of payment that would be involved there. Also, it's my understanding that right across from that parking lot to the north side is city-owned property. That has yet to be developed for more additional parking. I mean, more and more people are coming here. I'm glad to see it, but I almost feel like that other gentleman that spoke earlier is saying that it'd be nice to get our infrastructure done and a lot of things done before we keep packing us in like sardines. I mean, I think the infrastructure is falling behind. So that said, I was wondering if it's on the planning board anywhere for somebody to do something on First Avenue, or what happened there? I mean, we thought that was going to be done with, they've got it all done down there by the new hotel, a couple blocks, and all of East Beach has been done. Most of East Beach has been done, but not all of it, correct, not all of it. I mean, and then all it seems like it just stopped on our side. So I'd like to know if there's any progress or plans to that nature of it. And I think these things are very, very important before we just keep bringing people in to go to the beach and not giving, I mean, this is Gulf Shores. People should be able to walk down a street on a sidewalk with lights to get them where they want to go. If we're trying to improve, walk into restaurants, walk into the new area over there by Acme Oyster House and all that, I would just like to see that more of. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Anybody else?
Mayor, there's not anybody else. I had a few
Okay.
comments I wanted to share, and but before I get to that, while we're setting that up, Lee, can you tell us, back on the PUD for Mr. Bowden's apartments, when that will be on the city council meeting for a vote? Is it advertised?
It's been advertised for July 28th, so 3 weeks from today.
July 28th?
Yes.
Okay, just want to let everybody know when that would be. I've got a few comments that I want to share, and some information hopefully might clear up some confusion about our high school. After Channel 10 ran their segment on our visit from Homeland Security, and on that same press release, they talked about a collapsed building again. I actually got a call from a guy in Birmingham that said, "Did your school fall again?" And so it made me realize that maybe we don't know what we don't know, but I think there's some good information that maybe will help clear some of the confusion up and some misinformation. But I think it's important that people do understand exactly what did happen. So this was early back in January when there was a press release that says portion of high school under construction collapses in Alabama. That was the headlines that we all saw, and which gave me gut wrench early in the morning when I saw that. So I'd like to talk about a couple of things. What did fall actually, and where is it located on the building, and kind of orientate that with the site. So what fell was the partial framing of a roof structure that's going to cover our practice field. And if you look in the blue, that C2 building is our practice field. And then what you also can tell by that is that this building is not part of the main high school building. It's a detached roof structure that sits out over the field. Here's just an architectural rendering to kind of show you that it's the roof cover. This, I'm going to give you a little timeline. This was January 21st. This is what was erected as of January 21st. Roughly 18 columns and some supporting purlins across the top of these columns. And I don't know if anybody remembers what January 21st was, but that was the start of our unprecedented, historic 8 to 10 inch snowstorm, which sent everyone home. And by late that night, this is what we were dealing with, closed roads and bridges. So for the next 4 days, no one went back to that job site. On the 26th, the crew returned and started putting up some more bracing and put up a few trusses. Late that night, early that morning, they fell. And this is the aftermath. You see part of it still up. And yes, that is what, that's what collapsed. That was our collapsed high school. Okay, just putting it all in perspective. A lot of this I didn't know till I getting these calls from Birmingham saying, you know, why is your school falling down again? But it's important that we all know and that the right message is shared out there. So here is fast forward to June. This is our visit from Homeland Security, which I fully support. HSI, Homeland Security guy, questions the standards of the building at the Gulf Shores High School. There were 37 illegals detained from the job site that day. Here's a breakdown of what their job descriptions were and what subs they were employed by. Drywallers, some electrician laborers and cleaners, waterproofing guys, siding insulation, they're putting hardy siding up, painters, exterior insulation installers. There's your 37. None of which worked on the structure of the building, none of which worked on the building that collapsed. So that just kind of pushed, that was it. That's the building that fell. That's what we've heard about. That was our school collapsed. And so the second thing I want to share a little information about, some facts about, is the process that that the bidders go through, or general contractors go through to get in the process to bid on this school. Our professional engineering and design team pre-qualified 6 bidders that were interested in bidding on our high school. 5 of them made it past the qualification package, and they're listed up there. 3 of those 5 actually bid on our school. But they went through a very rigorous program that qualified them financially, job history, comparable projects, scheduling, timing, all of that. So we've got the pre-qualification process. In the competitive bid law in the state of Alabama, Section 411650 Code of Alabama 1975 mandates that municipalities and boards of this nature with any project over $30,000 value award the job through a sealed bid, competitive bid process to the lowest responsive bidder, and that's exactly what was done. And noting that everybody was pre-qualified, any of those guys could have done a great job. But I want to talk a minute about Rayburn and their qualifications, because I think we absolutely hit a home run with the kind of projects that these guys do. And here's a little bit about Rayburn just by the numbers. 358 commercial projects since 2000. 75% work for repeat clients. That was pretty impressive, 24 years of service. These are some of the projects that they have completed. On the left is a 17-story, 275,000 square foot mixed-use development in Birmingham. The Evolve at Auburn is a 9-story, 411. To put it in perspective, our high school is roughly 280,000 square foot, 2-story facility. Auburn University College of Education, 167,000 square feet. Auburn University Business Building, 105. They've done an enormous amount of work for education institutions, for municipalities, for state government. The RSA House that they're doing now, Phase 3. They built the lodge at the Gulf State Park, 350,000 square feet. Auburn High School, 350,000 square feet. George Washington Carver High School, 200,000 square feet. So they're absolutely qualified to do the work. And for Homeland Security to even question them like they did and want to question our school, I think was totally inappropriate. I don't know where it's proven that illegal equals unskilled, no more than legal equals skilled. It has nothing to do, Homeland Security has really no position in making that statement. But this is what we have. And, back to the building when it fell, there was a question about what's this going to cost the city taxpayers and who's going to pay for this. Rayburn General Contractors contacted the contractual parties involved, which would be the city, the school board, and our engineering design firm that very same day, and said, this is our problem on site. This is between us and our subcontractors and our insurance companies. And the city nor the school board will be involved in this resolution financially or in any other way. That was that morning. And that's fact. That's just contract law. We don't have a role there. They put investigators on the site immediately. We're not professional investigators, and that's going to come down to a legal battle that if you're not involved in it, you don't need to make comments on what really happened. But we saw the circumstances around it. But this high school, to me, is going to be one of the finest learning institutions in our region, if not beyond. And what we will offer to students that will help them excel at the next level is just nothing short of amazing. And that's whether it's college prep, whether it's vocational, whether they're in arts, athletics, engineering, marine science. they're going to get an exceptional opportunity here to excel in life. And to me, for any misinformation to question the integrity of what's going on there is really an injustice to the school, the community, and the students and faculty. And so it's just a little, if I'm coming out a little frustrated, I probably am, that headlines don't always sell the truth. And, but this is the truth. These are the facts. And that is what our high school is going to look like when we get it finished. But I hope that clears up some. I hope my buddy in Birmingham is listening and watching, because he's called me twice. So anyway, that's all I have, Mayor. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Philip. Did that create anyone that wants to say anything after listening to that? Anybody?
I would just like to thank
Use the microphone. We got folks listening at home too.
Angie Swiger. I'd like to thank Philip for making that presentation, because I think that's what people are looking for. I think in the absence of communication, imagination takes over. And when we have not one incident, but two, then people start to question what's going on because they don't know. And I wish we would have had this kind of presentation much earlier on so that people would know. And absolutely good to know. Everyone needs to know that the school is safe, that everyone feels good about it, the quality of Rayburn, the quality of the investigations and the process that you've gone through. I think that's exactly what people were looking for. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Anybody else? It's a lot. Is there a motion we adjourn?
So moved.
We stand adjourned. Thank you. We'll be back Monday night for the limited things we have on the agenda to vote on. Please join us.